All right, so we are now recording. I wanted to just say good afternoon to everyone. My name is Terrence Hood, and I serve as Assistant Director for Alumni and Student Athletes in the Center for Career and Professional Development. So we are excited and delighted to welcome you all to our LinkedIn conversation. And I want to thank Marcellus Perkins, our grad assistant, for helping us out with our facilitating the questions here. But as you know, this is not really a presentation, this is a conversation. So we invite you to use the chat feature, unmute yourselves anytime. Before we get too much into the actual agenda, I would love to introduce to some and present to others. Alex Thompson, who is going to become a co-facilitator. She is an employer, or alumni, former athlete. But I would love for Alex, if you would mind, to share a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Sure. Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Thanks, Trudy. All right. Well, I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you, Terrence, so much for having me. Alex Thompson is my name. I am an alum, just like Terrence mentioned, of TCU. I was actually on the women's rifle team, so I'm a student athlete, former student athlete. Once an athlete, I guess always an athlete, though. So I'm really excited to be here today. I work for BNSF Railway. We are a Tier 1 railroad across the United States in 28 states. Most of the Western U.S. is what we cover, lots of different job opportunities. So I'm just going to be able to chime in on the information that Terrence is going to share today about LinkedIn. Really excited to talk to you all. I've been with BNSF for about 8 years. Prior to that, I was with the Chamber of Commerce. And before that, like I said, I was an athlete at TCU. I was a finance major with real estate and leadership, but then I'm currently working in human resources. So your career can go all over the place, and there's lots of different opportunities. I'm excited to talk to you all today.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for sharing that. Marcellus, would you mind just telling a little bit about yourself as well?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Terrence. My name is Marcellus Perkins. I spent the year in student athlete development, working with Terrence in the career and professional development area. So just, helping student athletes with resumes, LinkedIn, and such. I've just recently accepted a new position as a research assistant for an up-and-coming research initiative the TCU will be undergoing that will be announced shortly. But I'm still here to help student athletes, and I'm excited for our series today.
All right, thank you so much, Marcella. So I want to dive right on in, guys. I want to be mindful of our time. Let me share my screen here. Let's see, we'll jump on in. All right, can everyone see my purple screen here and all my titles and stuff? All righty, so let's dive right on in here. Welcome, everyone. And thank you, Alex, for that introduction here. And Alex has also been gracious enough to offer her contact information, which I'll share at the end of the presentation again, but Alex has been very gracious to offer her email address, her job search website link there, her job postings. I'm sure Alex will talk about what she does at BNSF, any job opportunities or internships. But if you have questions for Alex about your LinkedIn profile, or for me or Marcellus, this is a conversation. We did this with you in mind. So I'd love for students to even kind of set the agenda, so to speak, as well. And so think about, what do you hope to take away from this conversation? Put that in the chat, mute yourself anytime. Can we cover this? Will we cover that? And if we won't, we certainly can. So I want all of our students to know this is done with you in mind. So please keep that in mind. So what are we going to talk about here? And before I get too into the weeds here, if you can't see me or want to see Alex's video pop up, you can go to your Zoom and little 3 buttons at the top corner there and click on Pin Video. And if you can't see me or can't see Alex, you can just click on the little dots there, go to Pin Video, and you'll see our video show up predominantly amongst all the other faces that you see here. So we're going to talk about a lot of things here, but again, student-driven conversation and allowing Alex to chime in from an employer perspective. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just basics, LinkedIn. What is it? How can it help me? Why is it important? I've been in the career services for 20 years, and we didn't always have LinkedIn. I used to send resumes to employers on a fax machine. And yeah, fax machines, if you Google it, they are out there. So we didn't always have social media, but now we have personal branding, your elevator pitch, your profile, your brand. So what does all that mean? I'm going to give you some tips to make your profile count, because some people think that your profile is a resume, which it is. It's a virtual representation of your past experience, current goals, future aspirations. And also I invited one of our current students, Mr. Davon Berry, to join us. I'm going to highlight his profile. I love to show students examples of profiles that they may use to be helpful as they build their own. And then I want to show you all some possible connection request examples. So when you reach out to alums or employers or people in your group, how do you word your connection request? So some quick tips there, because you want your request to be noticed. My experience has been, out of all the requests I get, maybe 5% have a connection request message added to it. So we're going to give you tips on how to make sure that your request is noticed. And then I want to show you all some hacks that I recently learned about myself. I'm hiring, which means employers are virtually raising their hand saying, I'm hiring, and they're putting I'm hiring in their tagline. So they want you to find them. So I'm going to show you some hacks to find employers that are hiring for various industries, and then show you how to find other alumni to connect with as well. And then we'll wrap up. And of course, we will make this recording available later on our YouTube channel. So let's dive on in here. Again, if you have any questions, please use the chat feature or unmute yourself. What is LinkedIn? How can it help me? I want to kind of start this out with a little story. Maybe 8 years ago, I went to a conference, and there are employees at a round table, and there's an older gentleman who was a chair of a company, and he said, if people are not on LinkedIn, they don't exist. And first I'm like, that's kind of over the top. Are you sure about that? He said, because I get 1,000 resumes, but if I can go to someone's LinkedIn profile to learn more about their brand, that puts them at an advantage. So it may sound like it's kind of over the top, but if you're not on LinkedIn, you're not visible to opportunities. Because the economy is competitive. If you're just relying on a resume alone, that might not put you in the best position to be marketable. So a little bit of a story about what employers think about LinkedIn. Alex, I'm curious here, before I go too far, do you think that's a little bit much for BNSF? Do you check LinkedIn profiles, and how important is it for students to have that presence?
I think the LinkedIn presence is very important. I wouldn't say it's part of our formal application process, but being able to find jobs that people have posted, companies have posted, alum that you know, that part is really important. So if you don't have a LinkedIn, you are definitely missing out. So I agree with that for sure.
Sure, Alex, thank you for sharing that. So along the lines of the purpose of LinkedIn, it gives you more visibility to opportunities. And the more visible you are to opportunities, over time, opportunities become more visible to you. Some call this a Facebook for professionals. This is your professional marketing brochure. And so some of our students are putting the LinkedIn links at the top of their resume: name, email, LinkedIn profile link. Easy access to your brand. If there's a John Smith, there may be 100 John Smiths, but your LinkedIn URL is unique to you. So you might consider putting that URL at the top of your resume. You can find jobs and internships on LinkedIn. I'm curious to see if any of our current students have used LinkedIn for the job search, if that's been helpful. But the third bullet speaks to the age we're living in. What are employers seeing when they Google you? Or if I Google your name, what will I see? And how does that represent your image? Your image typically represents your brand. Employees have a brand as well. So in most cases, they're looking for people who might demonstrate some of the core values by the employer. So if you have time for homework, you might want to Google yourself, see what shows up, manage that effectively, because more and more, last time I checked, over 80% of employers use social media at some point in the hiring process. Also, you can use it for researching employees for job interviews. Look at your interviewer, have the person's name. I might go to LinkedIn, see what they're all about, where they came from, what do we have in common. Look for talking points during the job interview as well. And the relationships can also become opportunities, because in networking, 80% of jobs are not posted, so they rely on referrals, conversations, and relationships. And Alex, any other thoughts on this slide that might relate to BNSF, or any other advice you would give for students on having a professional LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, I think we'll probably talk about it too later in the presentation, but those relationships, that last bullet, turn relationships into opportunities, you know, taglines, we'll talk about that. Terrence already mentioned he's going to share some hacks and tips, but really the important thing is those relationships. So if you can put, I'm alum of X university, that's really important to reach out to fellow alumni. A lot of times those relationships will get you a conversation. You can get into a job shadowing type experience, or at least a conversation about something, just based on that one shared value, that you went to school at the same university. Same thing with being an athlete. I think that's a huge item that sets you apart, that's that unique criteria that you definitely want to speak to, because that's a small subset of people, and it shows that you can demonstrate quite a bit of time management as well as hard work. So those are definitely things to incorporate when you're reaching out to people and starting those relationships.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Alex. So let's talk about your profile here, which is kind of the foundation of your whole brand. For starters here, mostly if you're getting started with LinkedIn, if you have a resume, you can totally use some of your resume content to start your LinkedIn profile, because some of the same sections are there, your experience section, education section. But what I'm learning is, based on my research, over 90% of employers at some point will either Google you or use LinkedIn to evaluate your candidates. And so the resume, in most cases, might not be enough, because the resume is a one-pager. It's a snapshot of your past. So the difference between a resume and LinkedIn profile, your resume is a snapshot of where you've been, but LinkedIn gives you an opportunity to expand your capacity to explain past experience, current goals, or future aspirations. So the resume might not give you that capacity to talk about your future plans, but LinkedIn also does that for you. If your profile is fully complete, that's really my key message today. You want to make sure that your profile is fully complete. So you wouldn't send half a resume to a job posting. So a handshake profile, that should be fully complete. Every section, so you want to go for expert level. So when employers are searching, and there's actually, Alex, I asked you about this, there's a platform called LinkedIn Recruiter that many employers are utilizing to look for candidates with full profiles by size of school, by major. And so the more fully complete your profile is, that also gives you more visibility to those employers. And then what I've learned is the most important parts of your profile, back to the first impression, is your picture, which we'll talk about in a moment, your professional looking photo, not photos of your cat necessarily. This is not Facebook, this is your professional brand, and your headline. Headline, we'll show you some samples of that. That's what's going to show up first in most cases. So Alex, any thoughts on this in terms of the numbers here? Are you agreeing with this, or any advice would you share for student athletes on the call?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. And really taking it back to profile versus resume, your resume is usually tailored just to one specific job that you're applying for, whereas your LinkedIn profile is going to encompass everything. So you're going to be able to talk about your projects, being an athlete, certifications, internships, other work history, where you can really elaborate and share more about how you are impacting those positions or those roles. Whereas your profile, or for your resume, it's going to be very different than your profile for LinkedIn, because it's going to be, like Terrence said, a snapshot. It's much more condensed, and it's usually just a one-pager. So your LinkedIn profile allows you to go much more in depth and give employers a lot more opportunity to get to know you.
Absolutely. And then at the very bottom here, there's a checklist for college students on here. LinkedIn has a university page for students, so we'll cover some tips for your profile, but as homework, you might check out that profile checklist to make sure that your profile is up to par and up to date. All right. So speaking of profile, let's talk about some quick tips to make your profile count. I want to talk about the photo, and the photo is number one for a reason. LinkedIn recommends having a photo gives you 14 times more, you'll be clicked on 14 times more with a photo than without one. So the blank gray silhouette, we recommend not using that for your brand. It doesn't represent you at all. So we'll talk about what you might do for your photo. I recommend typically a professional looking picture. At our career fairs, we typically offer professional headshots, but Alex may attest to this. It can even be a professional looking picture of you outside your favorite building at TCU, or a picture of you at your favorite spot or favorite building on campus, something like that. So it may not be a professional photo by a professional photographer, but it still should be typically from the torso up, something that's a headshot, nothing that's you too far away. So if I can't see your face and see your smile and see your persona in that picture, That goes into the idea of first impressions. And then for your tagline or headline, I put some examples here. I've seen so many variations over the years, but some go with something simple like student athlete at TCU. The first example has kind of the major and a little bit of keywords for the industry. So a keen eye for design, that's what my employer is looking for. So how can you incorporate some of those keywords or phrases from those job descriptions or employee descriptions into your tagline? And then I'm going to show you a sample summary in the next slide here. That's kind of an about you, who you are, what you're all about, why you're interested. I've seen some people put quotes on their profile, some put their strengths quest. If you took Strengths Finder, the top 5 strengths on there. I have my Myers-Briggs personality type on there. So you get to come across as professional and personable. We do recommend including measurable results in your profile. So not just responsible for making phone calls. How many phone calls? How many athletes? How many children that you work with? Weekly, daily, monthly, how much, how many, how often? So as much as you can quantify in your profile, that shows your demonstration of your skills, not your tasks, but your contributions. And then if you can find those keywords from industry, from various job postings, so if you see risk management or training and development, if you see that show up often on your job descriptions, try to include or embed some of those skills into your summary or your skills section. And then for the recommendations, you can get those on your LinkedIn. I've seen some students, Alex, actually put their recommendation there, choose a few, and add that to their resume. So they got a recommendation from a professor or a colleague. Some students are putting some of the recommendations as a separate section on the resume. But then you totally want to try to follow groups or companies. So if BNSF is a company of choice, you can find them on LinkedIn and follow them as well. So Alex, do you have any thoughts here, any recommendations for student athletes as they move forward with their LinkedIn profiles?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. That photo is really, really important. The recommendations that I've seen is kind of from that first or second button on a shirt, on a collared shirt, really making it the face is really what you want to hone in on. So your face should be the primary makeup of that photo, and you want to make sure that there's nothing distracting behind you as far as a background. So I've seen people really creatively even put up a sheet that's very, neutral behind themselves, and you can still take a great photo that way. It does not have to be a professional headshot, just like Terrence mentioned. You could get a family member, a friend, to really help out with that. If you've got a good selfie stick, and you may even be able to do it that way. But there's lots of different hacks for being able to take that professional photo. And just like Terrence recommended, those are all great ideas. The other thing is to, dress for the role that you want. So just make sure, I would highly recommend not like a tank top or a t-shirt. For males and females, I would just say it's really a great idea to wear a collared shirt or some kind of a jacket, but something that really is just kind of from that face up. So to make it a little bit more professional. So definitely dress for the job that you're looking for, but it's nice to have kind of a neutral in there so that you can apply for lots of different roles as you kind of figure out where you want to go. Definitely the measurable, that's really important. We talk a lot about SMART goals, so specific, measurable. Those are making sure you have metrics in there, stats that are very specific to what you're trying to attain. That's a great acronym to Google and just kind of make sure that your details share that SMART written response there. That's a great way to go. Industry specific keywords for sure. There's definitely a few places where you can add things that you're interested in or you want to pursue, things you're good at as well. And you can bucket those on your LinkedIn profile. And that's a great way for employers to know, oh, you're interested in this. Maybe that's not even your major, but hey, you're interested in that. That could definitely be a role that you could fit into or be trained on. So anything that you're interested in, those are great things to bucket. And then also recommendations. So eventually you'll want to have recommendations on your profile as well. And so if you worked on a summer project for somebody, or even if you mowed a yard for somebody, anything like that, that shows that you have great time management skills, whatever it is that is transferable as a skill, that's a great thing to have a testimony about on your LinkedIn profile as well. That'll help get to that expert level.
Absolutely, Alex, thank you so much. Let's go on to our next slide here. And I wanted to show you all a quick example of a summary. And I'm learning that your summary is called about now, I think, not a summary. Your about section can become kind of a mini cover letter. if you think about it. Not saying you shouldn't send a full cover letter to any jobs or internships, but this is a sample of a student athlete. It's who they are, what they've done. It's a snapshot. So it's not a whole a narrative per se, but it's highlights of their background, their experiences, and then they put down what they're looking for. At the very bottom of that, I've seen some put their email address at the end of their profile, so employers can contact them rather quickly. But here's just a quick little example. And then Mr. Berry, he'll be sharing his LinkedIn profile in a moment on his about section, how unique it is. So this is a way for you to showcase your unique brand, but I want you all to see just a quick sample.
Terrence, we have a question.
Yes, sir.
Stevie asks, can you ask your coach for a recommendation, or can they not until you graduate? So in regards to, I guess the bottom part, when people can endorse your skills, is that accessible by coaches? Are coaches allowed to do that?
I would say yes. I think coaches, mentors, anybody that you've had experience with that could vouch for your professionalism, your work experience, any of your character. I think those are great things to have as a recommendation, a testimonial on your site. Yes, I would go for it.
You know, totally agree with Alex. Absolutely.
And if someone's willing to endorse you, you may even just go ahead and get their permission to include them as a reference when you do have a formal resume to submit. That's a great addition. A lot of companies will ask for references, and it's a good thing just to have them in your back pocket ready to go. So if someone's willing to endorse you on LinkedIn, you might as well just ask for a recommendation, even if it's a couple lines in an email, and just be willing to share that person's name and their phone number in case the organization wants to reach out to them. But that way you secure them as a formal reference, and then you've got their endorsement on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, guys.
Good. You're very welcome. Thanks for the question. And thanks, Marcellus, for showing us that question there. Alex, thank you for your response. So at this time, I like to showcase profiles of our students. So I invited Mr. Davon Berry to join us here. Davon, are you on the line, sir?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can. Let me pull up your profile here. Let me exit out of this really quick here. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time today. I want to pull up your LinkedIn profile here. Let me make sure. Can you see your profile on the screen, Davon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to have you, if you don't mind, just kind of walk us through your profile. I'll scroll down as you instruct me. I want them to see your profile, kind of tell us your story about how LinkedIn has helped you.
So yeah, there's key things that I want to talk about here. LinkedIn, as we all know, is an opportunity for us to have a platform, a separate platform, but from a professionalism side. So in my subject header here, I have featured on ESPN, published author, and some of my favorite quotes is, in order to be something, you have to do something. And the reason why I have that, it gives the audience or whoever wants to view my profile an opportunity to know about me personally, but this is something that was on a global stage. I think that's really important to add into your profile. Anything that you've done from a social media site or a accredited brand, it's important to try to add some of those things. In order to be something, you have to do something. I think that speaks to every successful brand that wants to be successful. So I have that here. In the background, of course, I have TCU, my university. So we go down here to about. The reason why I have this lengthy here is because I want people to know where I go to school, what are some of my current interests, kind of giving people a background of who I am as an individual. Where did I come from? How did it all start? Where did you get this attention from? I think it's really important for people or any businesses to follow. That gives them an opportunity here to see, okay, who is this guy? How can I contact him? And I seen you, Mr. Hood, I seen you talk about where your contact information is at the end here. I have that at the end. That's my TCU email here. This is the most important part, I think, right here, the future stories. Recently, I just accepted a job opportunity with the Houston Texans. Last summer here, if you go to the next one here, I did an internship at Adidas headquarters. So basically, as these business professionals go through your profile, they want to see, hey, what are some of the cool things you've done? This is to showcase each thing that you've done, what have you been featured in. And I think this is a great opportunity for them to show who you are. So if you scroll through my page, here you have me speaking at Adidas. You have, people asking for my book. This is a great opportunity for businesses to see you from a multifaceted, dimension. And then if you scroll down here, you'll see activity. So people can actually, when you connect with them, they see, okay, who you're responding to, what your network is looking like. And this is a great opportunity for people to say, hey, if he's connected to this person and I'm trying to get connected to him, let me see who he is connected to, he or she, maybe I can bounce off of him. So basically you go down here, you talk about your experiences, any experiences that you have. The reason why I have like links attached to my experiences is so that people can have a visual and a hard like cover copy of like what I did, and so that they can easily follow it. And I think the power of LinkedIn for me has created an opportunity for people to say, hey, not only is this dude a former collegiate athlete, not only is he an inspiration, but I want this guy on my team. I think that's important wherever job you're going to, so that company can understand you as an individual, but does this individual fit our mission statement? So I think that's really important as you go through my LinkedIn here. You'll see some of the things that I've accomplished.
All right, Davon, thank you so much for sharing. Alex, do you have any thoughts on Davon's profile or anything stand out to you that would be something that would be eye-catching?
Yeah, I think multifaceted. I love that word that you used. I think that's so true. This really is that snapshot where it's an opportunity to be multifaceted. I would say for the students on the call who may not be as diversified as you are with all these great experiences, great opportunities. So for the students who they are a college athlete, but they haven't had maybe an internship, they haven't been able to land a lot of those things yet because they're early on in career. I would say, don't let this be intimidated. Let this be a great example. This is your goal. This is a fantastic profile. Just like you mentioned, multifaceted is really, really the answer here because there's so much. But where you may not have a lot of these experiences yet, you can really play up volunteer activities. You can share articles that are business related or business related to folks that you want to reach out to. Alumni status, yes, there's a lot of different things that you can do, even if you haven't published a book or you don't have a job offer, you haven't had these internship experiences. But this is a fantastic profile because it really does let you know, who is this person? What do they stand for? What are they passionate about? What excites them in a work opportunity? That's what you're looking for. And LinkedIn allows you to really give that authentic self, which is really a great thing, where a lot of a resume is just so black and white. There's not a lot of fun to it. I'm seeing more fun resumes these days with color and pictures and things like that. But, your LinkedIn is really where you get to have that multifaceted experience. I think that was a perfect term for it. So thank you. But this is a great profile.
I also want to add something. So throughout my experience of interviewing, businesses also want to see what your interest is. So, Mr. Hood, if you could please scroll down to the bottom of my page, please. So businesses really look at this. They want to see, okay, what spikes this student athlete or student's interest? What are their goals? Okay, because once you go through the processes of interviewing, they're going to say, hey, what interests you and how can you be an asset to our company? So they're going to look at, okay, who inspires you? Bill Gates, Jeff Weiner, the creator of LinkedIn. And once you get that, businesses are going to be able to see, okay, I see what this student mindset is. And I think that's really important to like some of these people, because as you have a like mind, businesses tend to garner towards that. So I think that's really important as well.
I agree. And there's ways for companies to filter. We do in-mail campaigns where we can reach out to people who are interested in certain things. So it's nice to know that you like to go hiking. If we're looking maybe for a job in a certain location in the country where really it's a pretty rural area, and that's a lot of what you have to do is go hiking. So we're looking for people who like the outdoors or whatever it is to be a fit. And there's opportunities for employers to be able to filter on these things. So just as Mr. Berry stated, you know, your interests are really important. Just do make sure that you're not liking them to like them. Make sure that you actually know a little bit about them and you are actually genuinely interested in them. That's really important. You definitely don't want to create a false facade. Just like on a resume, you don't want to ever lie on a resume. Just the same thing with LinkedIn. You don't want to put anything out there that's not true. So don't feel like you need to embellish if that's not you, but definitely using these interests and following groups, just like he said, is definitely a great tool.
All right, thank you both so much, Mr. Berry. Appreciate your insight. Student to student, peer to peer. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Berry, and Alex, thank you for your comments as well. Marcellus, do we have any other questions so far?
No, we don't. I have a question for you all, Alex and Terrence. I want you all to kind of speak to the importance of skills at the bottom of the LinkedIn page. How do you kind of measure what skills need to go on your LinkedIn page, and what can be seen as valuable versus invaluable? How do you market your skills? I think if you can scroll just a little bit up, a little bit more. Right, yep, so the skills and endorsement. How do you know which skills to actually include on a LinkedIn page? You all can speak to that.
Let me go first. Okay. So I think skills, you want to make sure that it's authentic, of course. You definitely don't want to be endorsed for something you're not comfortable doing. So clearly on his profile, motivational speaking. So he's okay getting up in front of an audience and talking to everybody. That's a really important thing. It's a fantastic skill. There's people who are endorsing that says, yes, Mr. Berry can get up and motivational speak. So that's a great thing. You definitely only want skills on there that you are comfortable doing. And I would say kind of on a rating scale, you'd want to be able to rate yourself high using them. So if you're applying for like an IT type position or big data, something with analytics, if you do not like Excel, you should not put that as an endorsement, right? So Microsoft Word, the Microsoft Suite, if you're comfortable with that, that's a great skill set. But if you don't know how to just do the basic functions, definitely don't put that as a skill. So those are just some kind of examples. But customer service, you know, he's got that listed. That's a great example too, where he's probably had that internship experience where people know, okay, he's had phone conversations, he can talk to people, he's got a good sense of integrity when he's speaking. And so people know that they're genuinely trying to be helped solve whatever problem it is. So I think just making sure your skills that are endorsed or just listed, if you're interested in them as skills, just make sure that you're comfortable with them and it's a higher level of proficiency. Don't necessarily negate it completely if you're not a superstar at it, like Excel. So if you're not a wizard at Excel, that's okay. But if you have a pretty high understanding and you can do a basic pivot table, you know, that's a skill. So that's kind of my take on it. That's a great question.
Hey, can I add something? This is where the recruiters really look and say, hey, where can I pair this potential candidate? Where can I fit him? I want him to be comfortable, all right? So businesses are looking for candidates where they can see where their interests are, whereas their skills and endorsements are. If they have multiple endorsements or skill people have tailored towards that, they're going to say, hey, I think you will be a good fit for this role. For example, I interviewed with Facebook and they saw that my experience was in marketing. So they said, okay, we want you to do this account project opportunity for us. because they knew that I could do motivational speaking. This is like where the companies, multiple companies will say, okay, I think you will be a good fit here, and I think you will be less of a fit here. So this is really important as you detail your LinkedIn. This is really important to be detailed as possible so that people can understand your strengths and weaknesses.
It's just another thing that we can filter on to find good candidates. Great point.
Great question, Marcella. That's about the skills section, and thank you to Mr. Berry and Alex for responding there. I'll go on to our next slide here, if that's okay. I have a few more things to cover here. Let's see. All right. Can everyone see my slide? Okay. All right, cool. All righty. So I wanted to show you all really quickly a sample connection request. As I said earlier, when people connect with me, only about maybe 5% or so have a message attached. So when you meet with people at a conference or through networking and you do a connection request, my motto is always add a note. Always add a message, because if someone tells me who they are, how they know, how they found me, what things we have in common, and why they want to connect, I'm more apt to say, yes, I'll connect with this person. I might respond to this person. So here's just a sample here. So if you're thinking about connecting with an alum of TCU, and I'll show you how to find alumni on LinkedIn. There's a cool alumni tool that I'll demo here in a moment. But here's just some possible language. It's context, it's who they are, what they want to connect, what they're expecting, what type of time commitment, if it's a phone conversation. So doing the homework in advance helps. Looking for jobs in sales, and I see that you've had experience at Gardner. As a sales executive, you're also an alum. I'm also a frog. So putting the mutual interest points based on your research is also valuable as well. Any thoughts here, Alex, in terms of connection requests at all, or what that might look like for recruiters, which we're going to cover next slide?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I am much more inclined to accept a request from someone who gives me a note and says how we met. A lot of times a recruiter specifically is going to be meeting people so often that if they get a nice reminder from you, oh, I met you at an X fair, or I go to this university, you know, those kind of things are huge benefits, and they'll actually a lot of times accept the request, where they may be more hesitant sometimes to not accept if they don't know who you are. And if you just met them in passing or an event like this, it's a lot easier for that person to realize, oh yes, this is a great potential candidate. I talked to them, I had this relationship. Just going back to that relationship piece. Great ad.
And I also included a slide here for HR recruiters. So language for alumni, language for recruiters. Here's some possible language to add to your note, to get their attention, not just connect because you can connect, but take about a minute or so, make it a personalized message that just speaks volumes. All right, in our last few moments together, I would like to just show you all a couple of hacks that I learned about recently. The first one is called the I'm hiring feature on LinkedIn. So I've learned that more recruiters are putting I'm hiring in their tagline. So it might be recruiter at Amazon, I'm hiring. They want candidates to find them. So it's really simple to do. I'll invite you all to join me if you're on LinkedIn now, but I'm gonna do a little demo here. I'll just do I'm hiring sales. You can do any industry or any job title. So let's just do that. I'm gonna do a general search here. So I have over 100,000 results, but I'm gonna narrow that down even more. But look at right here, you see I'm hiring, looking for experienced professionals. Data, B2B sales, I'm hiring. So more professionals are putting that right there in their tagline to be noticed by candidates. So you can start here, or you might come up to the actual filters here, maybe do all filters here, and I want to work in Seattle. I'm just doing a demo here. Click on that, use your filters here. You can do by specific companies, by those who went to university, that type of thing, but I'll just do this for the demo. So I'm down to 2,000 results, which is a little bit more manageable than 100,000. But as you see here, more of these recruiters are putting the words I'm hiring in their actual tagline to be noticed. And you get to see here, the numbers next to their name show you how you're connected. 3 means it's a third level connection. 2 means someone I know knows them. Number 1 means it's already a connection of mine. So there are 3 different tiers of connections on LinkedIn. Any questions about this feature? Alex, any thoughts? Have you heard of this feature before? Has anyone heard about it or used it? Has it been helpful?
Yeah, I think it's very helpful. Most candidates, I don't think know about it yet because I think it is a little bit newer, but it's definitely a great feature.
I think it is fairly new there, Alex, and again, more are learning about it as well. So I want to make sure our students knew that you can look for this by industry or by company. And the last hack I'll show you all is actually the alumni feature. So if you want to find out what you can do with your major or what other students are doing in your major, who's working in sales, who's working in development, LinkedIn has a very cool, easy to use alumni feature. If you come up to the top here, I'm just going to type in Texas Christian University and then look for the school page, not the group, to find this. So go right here to the TCU's page. And we have over 60,000 alumni on LinkedIn. So what you're going to do here, come to the alumni tab on the left and begin your exploration. So as you see here, there are lots of filters to play with. Here's where they live. Here's where they work. So you can see the profiles here at the bottom, but here are the companies lined out for you very nicely. If you go to next, it shows you their industries here. Here are their majors. So for demo purposes, can someone give me an industry to play with? Anyone tell me an industry I can click on? Anyone curious for demo?
Marketing.
Sure. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So let's go to marketing, over 2,000 alums in marketing. So when you click on one filter, everything else filters for you. Where they live, here are the companies here, lots of them in the DFW area. We have Houston, we have Seattle, we have LA, we have Denver. So you can find alumni across the country in almost any industry. Here are the companies on the left, Bell Flight, we have 7-Eleven. So we have alums in all of these industries, and here are their profiles. So how easy is that? But the next step is, who do I want to connect with? So you see all these different profiles. And the coolest part of this to me is based on my profile, it shows me how many connections I already have in common. So if this person is a second, like Andrea is a second connection, I know 23 people who know Andrea. So I might ask one of those 23 to do an email introduction or LinkedIn introduction of me. So if I want to go to her directly, I can, but maybe I'll reach out to one of these 23 candidates or people in my connection to ask, would you introduce me to Andrea? I'm looking for jobs in sales and marketing. So this gives you easy access to find alums. When you make the connect here, again, try your best to add a note. The idea of, again, what research have you done, background, what you're seeking, and then why you want to connect. And that's it for the alumni tool. I just wanted to show that really quickly. It's pretty easy to use. I'm not sure if people know about it much. Alex, will you worry about this tool at all? Or?
Yes, but limited. It's a great tool. I'm a little biased to mostly TCU alums here as well, but it's a great tool. And this is a really great opportunity, I think, to reach out as a TCU person to someone else and say, hey, I'm really interested in this industry. I'm only a junior and this is my major, but could I have 10 minutes on the phone with you, or a 30-minute kind of job shadow? Just tell me about your day. So you can really find out if you even like what they do, or if you like their company. Just learn a little bit more about their culture. So there's a lot of exploration you can do just by building a quick relationship on here. And just like Terrence has mentioned, you know, most alum are really willing to reach out to other TCU folks. So great opportunity to build that relationship and get some real exposure.
All right, Alex, thank you so much. So I wanted to make sure I showed the demo of that. That's the alumni tool on LinkedIn. So to close our conversation, everyone, we're about to wrap up here. I just wanted to make sure that you knew a couple of resources. Can y'all see my screen? All right, just making sure. We do have some LinkedIn tip sheets in the Career Center. If you go to our website, we have a tip sheet called Optimizing LinkedIn with some quick do's and don'ts for your brand, for the alumni tool, for connection do's and don'ts as well. So I want to make sure everyone was aware of that. It's on our Career Center website. So as we conclude today, thank you all so much for joining us. Want to give y'all some action items. I love next steps, but I do recommend putting at least 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day to LinkedIn, sprucing up your profile, liking comments, being visible, being engaged, posting articles. So the more visible you are to opportunities, over time, opportunities become more visible to you. So the profile is important, but how engaged are you? That activity section that Mr. Berry showed us, he's engaged in the platform. So he's not waiting for people to find him. He's actually being more proactive and being engaged on the platform. So having a profile is key, but try your best to be somewhat engaged, whether it's liking a comment, sharing an article, share a quote, whatever is based on your values or your goals, be engaged on the platform as well. You can also make an appointment with us on Frog Jobs, Powered by Handshake. We offer LinkedIn tips and reviews. And then I shared the link to our college profile checklist on LinkedIn's webpage. And also a quick note in terms of Frogs Helping Frogs, Adam McAdoo is an alum who was going to be here with us. He couldn't join us today, but he said whoever's wanting to work in sales or marketing or just needs a job, he wants to help you find a job. He actually, a former athlete, works at TTI, that's Tectonic Industries. He said, give him my cell, give him my email. TTI's been on campus several times. They recruit for all majors. They have an awesome leadership development program that gives you training from the ground up. So he said, please share more information. So I want to make sure we have that for you. Adam McAdoo is awesome. He looks forward to helping you. That concludes our conversation. Alex, any other final pieces of advice for students, or Mr. Berry, any other final advices or thoughts?
Yeah, I got something. I think this is really important. So as you're in the activity session, as you're engaging and commenting and the things that you post on your feed, a lot of TCU alum, current students, they will view your profile too. And sometimes they may even comment. So it's important to make sure that whatever your comments are, as you're taking those actions, always try to make it about whatever brand that you're associated with, so that more people will be able to reach out to you, have a interest in what you're talking about. I think that's really important. Just wanted to throw that out there because I know, you might say, what should I post or how should I post it? If you look at some other people's, profiles, I think that would be really important to give you an idea of how to post on LinkedIn.
All right, Alex, any other closing thoughts or advice?
I think you've covered a lot today, and those tips are really, really helpful that are posted, that Terrence mentioned, that you can go in and just build up that profile. You really do want your profile to be a brand, want it to be about you. Being proactive, just like you mentioned, is really important. I think that's a great idea. And then making sure that you're reaching out to people, that you have a really good alum base, current and past TCU Frogs, because there's a lot of connection, and it's all over the country. Frogs aren't just in Fort Worth. So there's a lot of really great opportunities across the country, wherever you want to go and whatever you want to do. BNSF hires quite a few different majors as well, pretty much all majors except for medical. So we have opportunities. So if you have any questions or anything that you want to connect on, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. You can find my email, a phone number. Feel free to reach out. Happy to connect you. But really excited to have this athlete opportunity today, and a great speaker. So thank you so much, Mr. Berry, for your demo as well. It's a great profile to use. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, you guys can reach out to me. I'm always on LinkedIn. Actually, LinkedIn is my favorite profile out of Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I love LinkedIn because I will say this too. 20 likes on LinkedIn is like 200,000 likes on Instagram. You have so many people that view your page and that are looking for new talent. You have people constantly looking for new roles. So please reach out to me. Speaking of Adam McAdoo, when he wanted an internship at Nike, I was actually able to help him send an email over because of the people that I knew at TCU. And we seen each other, ran into each other at Buffalo, Buffalo Wild Wings last summer. And we just gave each other a big hug because he was at Nike and I was at Adidas. So, I mean, that's just crazy how LinkedIn works. And I think that would be a great opportunity for, like Adam's a great example. You can reach out to me. I'm on there. Please. I'd love to help.
Wow, this has been great. Great conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Berry, and thank you, Alex. Marcellus, thank you. Do we have any other questions, Marcellus, in the chat? All right, very good. Well, we're going to end our recording, and we're going to make this available on our YouTube channel very shortly. Everyone, have a great day. Stay safe, and go Frogs.
Go Frogs. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
All right. You're very welcome. Let me stop recording here.